This is the I Read Comic Books podcast. I am your host, Mike Rapin. Joining me this week for episode 355, two snails on a log who have dispatched me with a massive quest for 10,000 experience points. Danny.
Hey Mike, slow and steady here.
And Paloma.
Hello, hello, hello.
Thank you both for joining me this week. I'm very excited to talk about comic books with all of you because it's the first official episode of 2023, but I have a ton of announcements to get through, and I promise I won't restart the show this time. First off, we have a listener survey that we're going to put in our show notes. I'll probably make a short URL, I guess, bit.ly.us/IRCB. I don't know. It's going to be in the show notes, so look for that. Basically, send us some feedback about what you think about I Read Comic Books in order to be entered to win a potential $25 gift card to Amazon or Midtown Comics, whichever you prefer. If you fill out the survey, give us your email and a name. We'll make sure to get that over to you if you're a winner. That survey is going to close on January 21st, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you get that all filled out because the next day we're going to be recording the I Read Comic Books annual live on Twitch and YouTube. Danny, Brian, and I did a test of this back in December, and it was awesome. We had more people than I thought even cared about this show showing up on both streams, which was awesome. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a competition between who's cooler, YouTube or Twitch. Show up wherever you want to, add your support. But anyways, make sure you get that survey filled out so that we can announce the winner live on the episode, as well as go through all of the incredible amounts of stuff we're going to be doing for I Read Comic Books this year. We've got a brand new Patreon schedule. We're bringing back some stuff from last year that was really, really fun. We're going to be doing 2 new small miniseries, which is going to be really cool. Plus, we got a bunch of other things that are happening with the regular show, which I'm excited to talk about. So that's on January 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so make sure to put that on your calendar. Come and join us live on YouTube and Twitch. Make sure you're subscribed there so you get notifications and everything like that, as well as so that you can see all of our YouTube shorts and all of our YouTube videos that go up, which are basically just our regular episodes. But still, if you want to find a new place to listen to I Read Comic Books, that's the place. Another thing I've got to say is at the end of this month, we're doing the best of 2022 comic books according to the I Read Comic Books family, staff, whatever you want to call us. Everybody over at IRCB gave me their best ofs 2022, and it is the wildest list of comics that I have ever read in my life because it is... The results will astound you, I think. I've got some of the best comics I think I've ever read, plus some of the strangest comics I've ever read. And I'm going to be talking about all of those in a big episode that's going to be dropping on our Patreon. So make sure you go to patreon.com/IRCB podcast to subscribe so you can get that at the end of this month. And if you subscribe for a year in advance, you get something like 16% off. So it's a total steal for all of the content that we have over there, including our other Patreon series like Saga of Saga, where we go through every single episode of Saga, where we've got Mike and Paul read Doom Patrol, where we talk about Doom Patrol, the IRCB Movie Club, which has a very special guest coming up this next month with a friend of ours, Kev over at the Austin Danger Pod. It's going to be, like I said, a ton of stuff happening this year. I'm very excited. So make sure you go over and subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/IRCB podcast. I think we have to repeat it 3 times in order for it to be like delivered in people's minds, right? Finally, last announcement, I promise, and then we will talk about comic books. The people over at our Goodreads group who finished our reading challenge selected a book in a short amount of time. We gave them a week, and they figured out a book that they're going to be reading. That is Nuclear Winter Volume 1. So everyone over at the Goodreads is going to be reading that. We're going to be talking about that on next week's episode, me and Kate and Nick. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited. And then, again, big announcements about what we're going to be doing with Goodreads this upcoming year. We're kind of changing things for the show, changing things for the Patreon. So look forward to that at the annual episode. I'm going to have even more announcements about the show. I'm super excited. So now, let's talk about comic books. So I've got to ask those 2 legally mandated questions that we have in every single episode of this show. How have you been? How have comic books been? Let's start with you, Paloma.
All right. I'm doing pretty good. Time is fake, but I'm entering my new year, new me era. And entering that, I'm like, I got to catch up on all my backlog of single issue comics that I buy. Why not just buy the trade if I'm just waiting for them all in single issue format? But that's a whole other episode.
we can go to therapy together about that one, Paloma. I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
I think we get a group rate discount, right? If we all
exactly.
That's 3/4 of the show. I think we have all the same problem.
But yeah, so I decided to catch up finally on James Tynion. I think that's wrong, but I'm just going to say James Tynion 4 and Michael Dialanis. Their series Wynd, in their 3rd arc. It's called Wind, Thrown in the Sky. And this is an all-ages book somehow where magical people are forbidden in this particular city. Our main character, Wynd, he's a magical person, has pointy ears, was found in like a basket as a baby. And so him and his like human friends are essentially ousted and caught in the middle, classic youth caught in the middle of a war bigger than them. And in this current arc, they're being chased by fairies, the vampire kingdom. Everything's just coming for these kids. And it's bleak. The art is like cartoony in like a phenomenal way, but it's so bleak where I'm just like, whoa, I don't know if I can sub to this anymore.
This is crazy because I've heard that Tinian say that this is his like, oh, this is my young adult book. Like everyone's gonna love this because it's so not dark like my other stuff. It sounds to me like that is not the case with this book.
I feel like he's lying.
Well, like, okay, on a scale from Department of Truth to House of Slaughter, where does this book lie?
God. Okay. Well, that is okay. I'm gonna say the middle, I guess,
Yeah.
because no child is slaughtered, no kid is killed
Right.
yet. But yeah, that's where I'm at so far. Danny, have you read anything a little bit more cheerful?
Well, I have read Wynd as well, and I got to tell you, I when I first got into it, I was like, okay, cool, it's something not as dark. But then, as we go on, and then you can even just see the progression in the covers, which is insane, how much darker they get, and like you get these. I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but yeah, for sure a good progression. The next book I'm gonna talk about, it's not as cheery, but it's also not as dark. It's the new Scarlet Witch #1 from Marvel Comics. And I know what you're thinking, Scarlet Witch, definitely gonna go dark. Not this one. This one's actually a lot of fun. This one's by Steve Orlando with art by Sarah Pichelli with a cover by Russell Dotterman. So like,
That's a
just me
team.
naming those three people should put you, I think, in a good spot for it. The Scarlet Witch is back. There is a door that appears only to those who need it most, who have no one else in the world to turn to. On the other side of this door is the witchcraft shop, friend, foe, human, or otherwise. If your need is great, your hope is gone. There will you meet the Scarlet Witch. When I read this book, I was like, oh, this is kind of like Heroes for Hire, but with the Scarlet Witch.
Sure.
She's got a shop, and the really nice thing is that this first episode is just like a really nice self-contained story to kind of bring you up to speed on what you need to know, and also just kind of give you a little bit of flavor of what you're going to see in the next few arcs. So I'm very excited. Pichelli's art is impeccable. Like, even if the story wasn't good, which it is, like just having Sarah Pichelli art, it just fits perfectly. Whether it's just a casual scene of them hanging out at the bookstore or a big magic battle, spot on. So yeah, this is just really, really good entry point if you want to read Scarlet Witch without any of the baggage of like, from years and years of Scarlet Witch shenanigans.
Yeah.
But the last few pages does give you a little bit of a setup of what's to come. So that was really nice. I don't know if either one of you guys read this book this week.
No, it's on my list.
So I haven't read this issue yet, Danny, and that's mostly because I'm kind of turned off by Steve Orlando comics right now. He did that run of Marauders, and like I loved the idea of that story. I hated the writing. I don't know. I really like Steve Orlando books. I've liked them in the past. But I feel like the last 2 or 3 series that I've read by him have just missed the mark, right? Like something about like his Martian Manhunter run that he did with Riley Rossmo, I think who it was, just like felt really bloated and like felt kind of scatterbrained. And then the Marauders run had a really cool idea, which has pretty cool implications for the Marvel like universe. It adds the character, it gives like weird relevance to the character Eric the Red, but also it was so topsy-turvy. And then it did that thing that I think a lot of sci-fi writers fall prey to, which is like, let's introduce time travel in a way that doesn't really matter. And it's kind of frustrating. It's like when Star Trek does time travel, you're kind of like, why is this in this series? Doesn't necessarily need to be here. Anyways, I'm gonna get
Trekkies,
this.
yeah.
I was gonna say the Trekkies are coming for me right now. I can already see the letters being written. ircbpodcast@gmail.com. I dare you. But anyways, I haven't read this yet. But if you say it's good, maybe this is worth me giving it a try.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's definitely worth it. Like I said, it's just a one and done story. So like, if you don't like it, you could just stop reading there.
I don't know, man. I'm not really that kind of person, Danny. You know that.
Yeah, me neither. But okay. Well, Mike, what have you been reading?
Well, let me talk about a book that I'm feeling very lukewarm on. But I guess before I get into that, I've been reading a lot of our best of 2022 books. Everyone gave me a lot of graphic novels, so like 200, 300 ish page collections. So I've just like I think on the second day of the year on January 2nd, I read like almost 1,500 pages of comics because I was like trying to get through this list. But anyways, I did read some non best of 2022 books. The first one I read was Mosely #1 by this is written by Rob Gilroy with art by San Latifi, colors by Jean-Francois Bolu. I'm sorry. Letters by Andrew Thomas. Ultimately, though, I picked this book up because I like Rob Gilroy. I like Sam Latfi's art. And I wanted to try it. Looks kind of cool. The synopsis seems interesting. In a hyper technological world, the later 21st century, Mosely is a bitter old janitor on a mission from a higher power to unleash holy hell upon the quote too big to fail tech gods. Can one man bring down the corporate powers that have used their vast influence to oppress an all too complacent human race and hopefully win back the favor of his estranged family while he's at it? Mosely's taking up the holy hammer, and you better believe he's going to smash some shit until he sets mankind free. That is directly from Boom Studios. I guess the #1 kind of hits things on the head. I really love Sam Lotfi's art. Like, I cannot express that enough. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I know Boom books usually don't mess around, but holy smokes, the combination of this artist and this colorist are a spectacle of which I thought was really, really cool. It's like a modern America stylized sci-fi art that like takes this idea of an old world and then builds tech on top of it rather than I think what we usually do, which is kind of like erase the old and insert with the new. It feels very cyberpunky in that way from an art perspective. That being said, though, this issue wasn't bad, but I do wonder if it's kind of like a crotchety take on technology being too involved in our lives, like those damn kids on their phones, because that's kind of the implication that you get. But I think that might be me taking like too much of a surface read of this story, because I do think what Gilroy was trying to get at with this book is that corporations should not have so much influence on the way that people live their lives, right? You should be able to live your life independently of the technology in the world that is like that it is made out of, or the world is made using it. And I think that's what he was trying to convey. I think this idea of a tech god, right? Like the idea is that we created these robots and these robots became so smart and so powerful that we started to kind of worship them. It's an interesting idea, but the way that Mosely is written kind of reminds me a lot of the kind of the other series that Gilroy did, which was
Farmhand?
uh, the which one?
Is it Farmhand?
Farmhand. Yeah, I thought it was Seeds. Farmhand, where
Yeah.
like the main character's kind of like angry all the time,
Yeah.
and I like that. It's interesting, but it does feel like it can be taken, I think, in a very like I don't like the way that the world is today. But nonetheless, I'll probably try #2 because I feel like the twist at the end of this issue was so out of left field and so fun that I'm like, okay, this might not. This first issue might have just been like an establishing like this man was crotchety, and then something happens, and now we're gonna see like the ramifications of that. So yeah, this was like a 3 out of 5 for me. But again, the end was such a surprise that I'll probably check out #2 just to see where Gilroy's going. This is how it started with Farmhand, and then I read the entire freaking series. So like, yeah, Danny, go ahead.
So I was not a big fan of Farmhand, so I actually stopped reading after volume 1. But I wanted to try this out because I read Lotfi's Last Stop on the Red Line from Dark Horse, which is more of a horror book. So I wanted to check this
Mm-hmm.
out. I like the beginning of the book because it felt like I was watching. I don't know if you guys have seen Ex Machina,
Mm.
Yeah,
the movie. Yeah, like it felt kind of like that. I was like, oh, we're going there. But then it changed, right?
yeah,
But like Mike said, at the end, the twist, I don't think it works as well without Lofty's like just really cool looking art.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm definitely also gonna stick around for this one. It was fun enough for me to be like, okay, I think I'm in. It
Yeah,
it
yeah,
feels a little superhero-y, which is cool. And it didn't leave a bad taste like when I finished reading the first volume of Farmhand.
sure,
So I like
yeah.
this crotchety old guy as opposed to the guy in Farmhand, which it was not as much fun. So
Yeah.
maybe if the Farmhand dude had a never mind. I was gonna spoil something, but
Don't yeah, I was gonna
yeah, I
say
won't.
don't spoil things.
I
Don't spoil
won't. I
things.
won't.
Paloma, what else have you been reading? Anything good?
Yeah, I've been blasting through Nana, which is a shoujo series from like the early
Ooh.
2000s, maybe the 90s, written by Ayazawa. And it follows two young women who are both 20 and they meet on a train as they move to Tokyo, and they're both named Nana. and they eventually become roommates. So I'm
Interesting.
on volume 5, and it's just got great emotional beats. The women just have like a special connection. One of the nanas, they nickname her Hachi, which I think relates to the word dog in Japanese, because the nana nicknamed Hachi is very eager to please, like little dog, loves praise. And then you have the other nana, who I refer to as like Rockstar Nana, who's the lead singer of a band called Blast. And it's just all
Cool.
of like the interconnected relationships and new relationships and wanting to grow, but a lot of knowing yourself despite being 20, and lots of realizing like, damn, why am I like this?
Hmm.
And the art's really good. The series does a lot of like fashion for like real life fashion. I forgot her last name, unfortunately, but her first name I think is Vivian, and she passed away recently. Was like huge fashion designer. So a lot of those clothing appear in Nana. So it's just a good emotional
Interesting.
time.
Yeah, I've heard this is like an all-timer series, right? Like when folks are like, here's the shoujo series you need to
Hmm.
read, like Nana is always in the top 3 at least. So I meant to read this, the first volume of this, years and years ago in a book club that I was a part of, and then completely forgot about it. And it's been on like my forever, like top of my digital wish list for forever. So I will say, we're going to talk about this more in the second half. I'm going to trying to read even more recommendations from people this year. So like maybe
Ooh.
this is like going to jet right to number 1 just because you're the first person to give me a book that I want to read. So this is interesting. But again, you're liking it so far, right? It's a pretty long
Yes.
series, right?
Yeah, I think it's like 21 volumes, and the kicker is in classic overwork your mangaka fashion. It's just unfinished because the creator got sick and hasn't
Yeah.
been able to get back to it. So it's cursed in that way.
Well, listen, Hunter x Hunter fans
That's
out there,
right.
or Hunter feel you. Feel you. They totally get it. So hopefully she has a partner that can finish the series
Yes.
for her. Cool. Well, no, okay. I'm definitely, this is going on my like Amazon to read list. I'm going to read this for sure. That's exciting. Danny, what about you? You read anything else that was good?
I did, and it was really really good. But it may have to do with just me growing up in the '90s, because I read Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is the first iteration of that crossover from IDW and Boom Studios, in preparation for the next one that just started this week.
Nice.
So this is written by Ryan Parrott, and illustrated by Simone DeMeo, with colors by Walter Biamonte and letters by Ed Dukeshire. Because Ed Dukeshire letters pretty much everything over at Boom, I think. Like I read a lot
I
of
mean,
Boom.
I know, right?
I read a lot of Boom books, and I always like to, when I'm talking about them, looking at the creators, and it's a lot of Ed Dukeshire. So like, keep working on it. He's amazing. So quick synopsis: the Power Rangers arrive in New York to find their missing teammate Tommy Oliver, which just implies that they're already in the same universe. This was mind blowing as I was getting into it. Um, so yeah, they're looking for the Green Ranger, but they soon discover that he's joined forces with the villainous Shredder and the Foot Clan.
Of course. Of course. He
It
lit a
is
candle and suddenly he was a part of the villain squad.
Listen, Tommy started out as a bad guy, so
I
like
know. I
it's
know.
in the DNA there. But of course, the Rangers also must deal with another unexpected frenemy, who are now the Turtles. So like they meet up, they fight it out because they have to. So can they work together to defeat the bad guys and save the world from total destruction? This is everything I could have asked for in a crossover. Like you get the Turtle and the Rangers kind of hanging out. You get to see them fighting. You get to see them teaming up and just kind of like, apparently the Turtles are big fans of the Power Rangers, which
Hell
is,
yeah.
like I said, it's insane because it feels like they're in the same universe, or they've always been in the same universe.
Mm-hmm.
And the characters just feel like the characters that I saw on TV in the '90s. Like I think Ryan Parrott really captures that very well, which is what really drew me into the book. Like they haven't missed a beat. It's the original, I don't know if it's the original squad, but it's the Rangers that I grew up with like
Mm-hmm.
Trini and Zack and Billy, like all the, before all the changes to the series. And then to top it off, DeMeo is just perfect for this task. Like his style is very dynamic, very stylized, just a perfect approach for like big battles, cool Zord designs. Of course, I don't want to get too much into it, but it's an old book. Like, of course, the Turtles dress up in the Power Ranger outfits and vice versa. because it
Dude,
has to
shut
happen.
up.
Yes.
You're killing me right now. This is Simone DeMeo, who also did We Only Find Them When We're Dead when They're Dead. I've already borrowed it on Comixology
Good.
Unlimited, so I don't know. It's
You
fine.
definitely should.
This looks so good. Oh my
It,
god.
it was so much fun. And I really enjoyed the follow up, which has Dan Mora art. So like, if I can't have Simone DeMille, like Dan Mora, it's right. Like Boom
You're
and
killing me.
they know what they're doing. And it's of course a really cool covers. So I'm gonna go try to hunt some of those down. I remember buying some when the book was coming out, but I didn't buy all the issues. So yeah, this was really fun. I think it came out like 2 years ago. So like, I'm glad they're following up on this. Because I like to read stuff that's not entirely superheroes, but it's still kind of superheroes, right?
Sure.
So this is right up my alley for that.
Plus the nostalgia. I mean,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. That's
I really hope, speaking of artists that are like overworked, I really hope Dan Mora is okay.
Right?
I only say that because I feel like somehow he puts out more books like as an artist than any other artist in the business and has been doing that for like the past 2 or 3 years.
Mhm.
I hope that he's okay. Or Dan Mora is just a series of artists in someone's basement and they're all working together.
he is.
I don't know.
He's master of the shadow clones, so
Yeah.
he could just go at it. I
Something.
think he does the most covers other than probably Peach Momoko, which is
Right.
the other artist that you just see
Right.
all over the shop. So,
That's
Mike,
crazy.
what else are you reading?
The last book I want to talk about before we jump into the top of our pile is I read What's the Furthest Place from Here, number 8 and 9. This is written by Matt Rosenberg and Tyler Boss. Issue number 8 has art by Ricardo Lopez Ortiz, and number 9 has art by Sweeney Boo, letters by Hassan Otsmani Elhau, aka the second most prolific letterer or maybe the most prolific letterer in all of comics. I don't really know. I think there's a list. Someone out there's got to be keeping track of the stats on this, but every time I pick up an issue of What's the Furthest Place from Here, I have to ask myself, do I even like this book? Every single time I crack the cover and I start reading, I go, what is this? Why am I reading this? And then by the end of the issue, I'm like, I didn't like that. Let's read the next one. I don't understand it. I don't hate this series, but there's something tells me that there's like a missing cog in the machine of my brain for this series because I really want to like it. Like it has all of the things in my mind that I would consider like cool, indie, like fun, like smart, like this isn't your average comic book feel. But then like I finished the issue and I'm like, the story feels wrong. I'm in like in the wrong mood, or it's the wrong day, or it's the wrong time, and I'm always tired by the time I finish an issue because I can't remember anything. Like every issue I start feels like I need to reread the whole series again to connect all of the dots, and I can't tell if that's a writing issue or that's a me issue because I get this with other series, and then usually I drop them. But there's something about What's the Furthest Place from Here that I'm like, I need this to be good. I don't understand what it is. And I asked the question in the notes: should a comic feel this way? I don't know. I don't know if you two have any thoughts on that before I get into the rest of this.
I'm gonna blame it on Tyler Boss. I think that
Whoa.
Interesting.
because their first book was so good that in your mind,
4 kids walking to a bank.
four
Yes.
kids walking to a bank, like that was so good that in your mind it's like this can't be bad. It's me, like like I'm the problem. It's me.
All right, Taylor.
Yeah, somebody gave me $5 to do that. No, but yeah, I think that's what it is. So I don't know. Or my other theory is that because you've been reading all this best of 2022 that we gave you, anything that you read outside of that, you're just gonna say, "Oh, this is mid."
That is very true. I will say that. Well, but it's frustrating because I felt this way since the series started. Like I got the first issue, and then I remember getting the second one and being like, "Who am I supposed to care about in this series?" Right? And it's kind of frustrating because I like something in my brain says I need to like this book or I like this book and I keep buying it. I keep thinking that it's cool. But I don't know, issues 8 and 9 were flashback issues focusing on like the origins of one character and then the original record store gang, like how they all came together, which is issue 9. Like I can't remember the names of anybody. I know there's a character named Alabama, I think. And again, this is where like it's weird that a book like this almost needs your standard Marvel like your Marvel style like recap page, and I know that that's like a big like faux pas in comics sometimes. Be like, well, if people can't remember your book, do they even care? And it's like, man, I'm reading so many comics if you're not doing me a service by just give me a little nudge of a reminder, right? Like I watch all of Supernatural and I love the recaps, even though I was binging it because I'm like, sometimes things just I didn't remember, you know? So anyways, I don't know what this comic is. I think I need to reread it. I think upon reflecting here in this, when I was writing my notes for today, I did appreciate all the connectedness back to the previous arc, right? In issues set 8 and 9, because I did appreciate we get to see where one of the characters came from. The kid who was in the pig group, and I can't remember what his name is. And I do appreciate seeing how the record store gang like came out of nothing. It's a really interesting thing that adds like this layer of Lord of the Flies-y stuff that makes What's the Furthest Place from Here like an interesting book from the get-go. So like I appreciate that, but now I'm like, maybe I need to go back and reread and reflect as to why those issues felt so important to me when I read them. So I don't know. I can't even recommend this book. And I've been asking people on other Discords what they think about it. And they're like, it's good. And I'm like, why? And then it's crickets. So like, I think everyone's in the same boat as me, but no one is willing to admit that they don't know what doesn't make this book work because they like the idea of this book. I don't know.
We need somebody to stand up and say, I am Spartacus.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't have either of you read this, Paloma? Have you taken a stab at this at all?
I haven't, mostly because it's the classic, oh, this is a lot of words right now and I don't have the time in like a good way, but like,
Yeah.
but I was a big fan of Four Kids Walk Into a Bank. I wasn't the biggest fan of how that ended. And then if I'm remembering Tyler Boss, I think he did his own 3-part series, Dead Dogs
with like
Bite.
the peppermint. Yeah,
And
Dead Dogs Don't Bite.
I liked the first. I really liked it, except I didn't like the ending fell flat for me, I guess. So
I totally agree.
That's also been my hesitance with this, is like the ambition of like a cool team whose stuff I really liked, but I'm like, the endings haven't landed for me.
Right. I totally get that. I absolutely agree. Like I love Four Kids Walk Into a Bank. I feel uncertain about the end even after multiple readings. So, yeah. Well, anyways, we'll have to do a whole discussion, I think, even further on this, because I think there's something to be said. Like, how do we take the Matt Rosenberg, Tyler Boss combination and like assess it and try to figure out what it is? I don't know. Maybe we'll do that on a live episode in the future or something. But anyways, let's get into comics that we're looking forward to reading next. Comics that are on the top of our pile every week on the show. We over at I Read Comic Books take a book that we want to read, whether it's brand new or it's something that's been sitting on our shelf or just something we've been meaning to get to, and mark it as the top of our pile, what we're going to be reading next. So I guess let's jump into things, and let's start with you, Danny. What is on the top of your pile?
Well, on the top of my pile is, to no one's surprise, the big DC book coming out this week, Lazarus Planet Alpha #1. This is a new book by Mark Waid, with art by Ricardo Federico, colors by Brad Anderson, and letters by Steve Wands. Big change in the world. If you have been keeping along with the World's Finest and then the Batman vs. Robin miniseries, this is kind of what follows that up. I'll give a brief synopsis to try to avoid like any big spoilers from those things if anybody hasn't read them. But the Lazarus volcano has erupted, spewing dangerous and transformative chemicals into the Earth's atmosphere. As these Lazarus clouds rain upon the planet, people across the world begin to develop strange new abilities. Watch their already extraordinary abilities change and witness the whole host of chaos. Unlike anything the DCU has experienced before, it's up to Damian and the team to put out a distress call to anyone who can still hear it. But the kicker that made me pick this book is that we're getting a backup story by Jin Liu Yang, with art by Billy Tan and colors by Sebastian Chang, letters by Janice Chang. But it's about the Monkey Prince, and they're bringing the Monkey Prince into the whole Devil Neza like conflict. And I really love the Monkey Prince. Like that's been one of my most surprising books that it came out of nowhere, and I just love it. I love the character because it's all. I mean, it's the whole Dragon Ball of it all because it's all based on the same like Journey to the West material, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that stuff. Jin Liu Yang's just such a fantastic artist too, and Billy Tan really like makes things look cool. So I'm very excited to see how the DCU is going to change, or maybe not change that much, but get new customs to everyone.
Sure.
Mark Waid's been doing. I think Mark Waid's been doing a really good job with the World's Finest and Batman vs. Robin. Like I've really been enjoying that. I know that DC went through some stuff where they like changed directions and they're kind of letting Waid take control of where the DC universe is going with this whole Dawn of DC thing. So I'm very excited. This feels like the flagship book for that. So you guys know I like to stay on top of that, all the changes in the comic world, at least in the story wise. So
Sure.
I'm very excited for it.
If anything, how many variant covers are you going to get? You know, that's the question that I think is on everyone's mind,
That's
Danny.
the big problem. I did hold myself from I didn't pre-order too many. I don't pre-order them that way I don't have to get them. But if I'm at the store and I see them, then
That's
maybe
smart.
I'll pick them up.
That's smart.
Yeah, but
Right.
Paloma, what about you? What's on your to read list?
I'm also following you in the DC train, and I'm catching up with the summer event, Dark Crisis. Was a 7-part series. I'm not gonna do any of the little one shots. I'm just gonna stick to the 1 through 7. And
Sure.
stop me if you've heard this one. The Justice League is dead, so everyone who's left must protect the Earth as every single villain ever decides to come up and try to take over. I read the first issue and I really liked it. I'm more of like a hater for whatever reason when like there's Marvel big events. I don't know why. But with DC, I just hold a little more grace. Maybe because I read Infinite Crisis as a teen and I really liked Connor Kent Superboy and I was like, damn, that was good. But Dark Crisis I'm excited for. Nightwing is a prominent player in this, and I'm like, and I love Nightwing, he's my boy. But I'm like, okay, you're really just a human who last time I checked wasn't in the overpowered human like echelon like Batman is, so a little confused there. I saw the cover for the final issue and he's like Jesus on the cross or something. So
Whoa, hold on a second. Am I reading Dark Crisis? This sounds crazy.
I can't wait to hear what you think of this, Paloma. I just finished it a couple weeks ago. Whenever it came out, I finished it. I am gonna send you some of my favorite times. Maybe you want to not dip into all of them, but the ones that I thought were pertinent to the main story. But yeah, I can't wait to hear what you think of this one.
I'm down for those then.
So I just have a quick question before I get into what's on top of my pile. And I'm sorry to derail this conversation any further, but I searched Dark Crisis just to see when the collection was coming out, whatever. And then I ended up on Wikipedia, and in the list of characters that are in the main character list, we've got Justice League, Justice Society of America, The Great Darkness, Pariah, Young Justice Titans, all the way down at the bottom. There's a character whose name is Mickey Mixelplate. All I gotta wonder is, what the hell is that? Why is this a kid version of Mr. Mixelplate or whatever, the Superman villain? This is insane. I can't believe it.
Tell. You're not getting any out of me. I'm not spoiling anything for anyone. You guys
I'm just gonna paste the image that they have on Wikipedia for this character and move on. I just can't believe that there's a character who feels so. That's just seems insane. I have no context here. I just when you name a character like Mickey or Tommy or Billy, like it's just got like, this is a kid version of a superhero. So, okay. Anyways, Danny, you're having too much fun over there. Let's just move on. I've got another DC book that I'm going to talk about. But before I get into that, I promise I said I wasn't going to forget it. So this week, I'm not going to forget it, which is our Discord picks. Thank you to everyone hanging out with us live today. We've got some folks that are listening live, and they gave us the books that are on the top of their pile. Nick is reading All Against All #2, which I'm very excited to read as well. I didn't pick that one just for reasons, but Hugh is reading X-Men #18. Paul G is reading Decades by David Taylor, and Hannah is reading or read Demon Bear Saga, which I think, is Demon Bear Saga. That's all that she told me. But anyways, so that's what everyone's reading. If you want to get shouted out, make sure you show up to our live episodes we record on Sundays at 1:15 p.m. depending. Check our Discord events to see when we're actually recording, but make sure you do that, and you can also get a shout out live on the show. For me this week, I am very excited to read Catwoman: Lonely City. This is by Cliff Chiang. If you didn't hear about this book, I've got a quick synopsis. 10 years ago, the massacre known as Fool's Night claimed the lives of Batman, the Joker, Nightwing, and Commissioner Gordon, and sent Selina Kyle, the Catwoman, to prison. A decade later, Gotham has grown up. It's put away costume heroism and villainy as childish things. The new Gotham is cleaner, safer, and a lot less free. Under the watchful eye of Mayor Harvey Dent and his Bat Cops. It's into this new city that Selina Kyle returns, a changed woman with her mind on that one last big score. The secret's hidden inside the Batcave. She doesn't need the money. She just needs to know who is Orpheus. Okay, is that synopsis got crazier and crazier and crazier? I thought this was just like a quick heist whodunit. Harvey Dent and his Bat Cops.
Ooh.
Okay, cool. I've been meaning to read this though for a while. Like when it came out, Cliff Chiang, like immediate buy, right? You gotta. Kelly, my wife, picked this book up because she loves Cliff's art. And I was like, cool, I'll eventually get around to it. But like, I've become so frustrated with not having bags and boards for these books because like my shop doesn't sell them. I have to like go online to get them, and I don't want to buy 100 like oversized magazine size. That DC, I appreciate you wanting to add more art to your books, but second off, how dare you? Because I can't even put these books in a freaking short box. Like I don't know what to do with them.
These go on your shelf.
They go in the trash, Danny.
Wait, before you throw them away, ship them over to me. I'll take care of them.
Yeah. No, but the beautiful hardcover did come out, which I technically means that I bought it twice. Yes. Spoilers. I bought it 3 times because I wanted to read it digitally.
Same. Yeah.
So I'm going to be reading this. This was actually someone's best of 2022 pick, and you will be surprised who it was. Again, I'm going to keep plugging that show because it's going to be an insane rant of yours truly going over all these books. I'm really excited. But yeah, really excited to read this book. It sounds insane. I've looked at the issues. They're absolutely beautiful. Cliff just knocked it out of the park with the art, so I'm excited to actually dive into this. But yeah, that's on the top of my pick, or top of my pile for this week. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, Paloma, Danny, and I are going to be talking about our New Year's resolutions for comics. What are we buying that's big? What are our big reads? What are some things we're trying to change about our comic habits? So we're going to get into all of that in just a second. We'll be right back. One day, while combing the beach, Amber and Alana discovered a pair of beautiful medallions. What happened next changed their lives forever. The Santos Sisters comic book will have you laughing from cover to cover as they fight crime, date dumb dudes, and just deal with everyday life as young women in the world. The Santos Sister is printed in Buffalo Grove, Illinois with a 4-color web press, a decadent newsprint just like your dad's comic books. The style of the Santos Sisters is similar to an old Archie comic, but with a modern vibe that resonates with today's audience. The Comics Journal loved the first issue, calling it a highly entertaining comic, and Paul Jaisley of the I Read Comic Book podcast said, I enjoyed the hell out of it. The Santos Sisters is available now, and don't miss out. Ask your favorite comic book retailer to add it to your pull list today, or find it online at santossisters.com. For our show this week, we are talking about our 2023 New Year's resolutions for comics. What are some of our big reads? What are some of our big buys? What's something that we're finally going to do when it comes to our comic habits? So Paloma, Danny, and I put down a bunch of ideas and things that we've been thinking about. I know that I've been constantly toting the idea of like, I'm not going to buy any new comics until I read all of my backlog comics, which is a farce. I say it every year. I'm never really going to do it, but I guess we do have some things that we're all trying to do. So I guess to start things off, Paloma, what are one of your 2023 New Year's resolutions for comics?
I think one of my biggest resolutions or goals is to go back to some classic or like iconic runs, which I've not done in years. I think working at a comic book store and like seeing all like the events kind of left me jaded, where I'm just like, why does it matter? It's not part of the continuity. Not that I follow continuity, but I'm just like, everyone just craps on continuity. Marvel just craps on the continuity that they make. DC restarts everything.
Yeah.
But then I like see people on Twitter like posting panels, and I'm just like, dang, that's what comics are about. This is what paved the way. So I was thinking stuff like, I love X-Men, but I've not read a ton of classic X-Men stories. Mostly because I'm like, I like old X-Men when it has Kitty Pryde. But I am like, what better place to start than like Days of Future Past?
That's a big one. I've never read it, but I know that it's the big one. I know. Listen, neither have you, okay?
You know, here's the funniest part. It's a big one, but it's 2 issues of the comic.
Yeah, so exactly.
It's so weird.
But it's like God Loves, Man Kills. One of them, in my opinion, one of the most important X-Men stories to ever have been published. There is no higher importance in terms of X-Men comics than that God Loves, Man Kills. But it's only like 60 pages, right? Which is crazy, right? Because we're so, oh man, all right, I'm stepping out halfway onto a soapbox here. You said it already, the events, right? These events have jaded us in terms of like what we expect to be impactful, meaningful change within comics, right? Think of it this way. Brian Michael Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man, the first arc, 6 issues long, and Peter doesn't get his powers until like the end. Back in the original Amazing Fantasy, like 13, 16, whatever the hell it was. Peter Parker gets his powers in one page. Like I think the impact of storytelling is drastically changed in a long time, and for better and for worse, right?
Mhm.
Like the length of these types of stories, we like the drawn out thing. I think we as readers shit on creators all the time. We're just like, that was too fast, everything happened way too quickly, it didn't really have any meaning. So we expect these kind of like drawn out, like taffy stories, whereas like these older comics somehow are able to be super concise with their really, really impactful things. But I think if we tried to take a critical lens to them and try to compare them to the same level of comics that we read like in a modern day, say like God Loves Man Kill was published today, would we think, I don't know about this Chris Claremont guy, he's not really nailing it? So I don't know. Thoughts? I'm off the soapbox
Wow.
now.
No, I completely agree. I think I blame the companies just trying to decompress stories to push
Mhm.
the trades when they should just be doing standalone graphic novels. But whatever, that's definitely a whole other show that we could have in the future.
Sure. But it's exciting to hear that you're going to be reading this stuff, Paloma. I mean, Days of Future Past is a great one. Are there any other books on your list that you think you want to try to tackle?
I've been meaning to check out Justice League International. I think it's like the
Same.
volume 2, Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one where we've all seen. It's kind of like, imagine someone standing over you taking a photo, like a group shot photo. Everyone's looking tough and cool, looking up, and it has like a
Yeah.
famous panel where, or like page where like Batman knocks out like a-hole Guy Gardner in like one punch.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to read it. I love team books, and I haven't even dabbled in this. It's been calling to me.
Yes.
Dude, Paul and I were just talking about that, I think, and I put it on my to read. Like it's up there with my like to read list for sure.
And if you like the Human Target, all those characters, like that's the run that they're
What?
basing all this stuff. I love how full circle this whole thing just went.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Great resolution.
Thank you.
Okay, then boom, it's happening.
Wow.
I'm doing that this year too. Paloma, me and
Look
you,
at us.
we're reading Days of Future Past. We're reading Justice League International. I do have some big reads that I want to read, and one of them is a big classic one that I'm sure folks will be surprised that I haven't read, but maybe not so surprised. And this is Saga of Swamp Thing by Alan Moore. That's a big one. I bought the issues or the volumes years ago on Comixology, and it's just been sitting in my to read list for forever. I'm always intimidated by an Alan Moore book, and then I sit down and I read League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and I go, you know what? Maybe it's not as crazy as I think. Maybe not everything is V for Vendetta. Not everything is Watchmen. Maybe he wrote some comics that aren't 50,000 words compressed into 12 issues, so I'm very excited to read that one. But again, that's a big classic one that I think to this day, has defined what Swamp Thing is. Paul and I talked about this in the minisode that we did last week, but that being a run that changed how Swamp Thing appears to all of comics, right? The orange bubble, the idea of Swamp Thing kind of being everywhere and attached to everything. I think that's the book, if I'm not mistaken, that established a lot of that stuff. So I'm very excited to dig into it because it is the classic, Swamp Thing story. Have you guys read that by chance? I don't know if
No,
again,
it's
it's a
on
big one.
my
Maybe you haven't
list.
read it.
I read one volume and I was like, this is so many words. It almost breaks my rule of like no more than 50% text in the page. So, but I'm really let me know what you think, Mike.
Sure.
If I should continue to try to read it, I definitely will.
Well, I mean, on that note, do you have any big reads or any books that you're aiming to finish this year?
Nothing like that. I think once I get into a book, I don't drop it until I've finished it all.
Sure.
That's one thing that I do. As many books as I read, I won't start reading a new book until I'm sure I'm gonna just get through the whole thing. My resolution is kind of on the other opposite end of what Paloma just did. I want to read more standalone graphic novels. I was looking through a lot of lists of best of 2022, and I kept seeing things like Squire, Ducks, which Paul talked about, all those little books. And this year I read Forest Hills Bootleg Society.
Yo.
So I just want to get into more stuff like that because just as much as I love serialized stuff and stuff that I'm reading week to week, Like, I think those books would be like a nice palate cleanser in between all the continuity garbage that I'm injecting into my head every week. And then also just expand my horizons. One of the things I love about like things like we talk about here or the Goodreads group is that you guys offer up so many other things that I would never look at, like, because they're not at the comic shops, or if they are, they're not like front and center, right? Like on the big wall.
Yeah, you have to look.
Yeah,
You usually have to dig for these types of books because they are less flashy. Is usually the case, right?
Even at Barnes and Nobles and bookstores like that. Like when I went to buy Forrest Hill's Bootleg Society, I was in the comic section and I couldn't find it, and so I had to go ask. And they have like this whole other section for like graphic novel, young adult graphic novels, I guess. And I'm like, I didn't even know this part of the bookstore existed, right? This might as well be like the nonfiction section to me because I will never go there.
See, I think we need to get you in closer contact with the Kates as well as Paloma, because I feel like between the three of you, you have some recommendations for books that I never ever would find. And I feel like I go out of my way to try to find this stuff. And then something like I'm spoiling things. Some books that are on the best of 2022 list show up. Like Paloma, I just read yours the other night and I was floored by it. And I was like, how come I never saw this book?
Yeah.
You know, like you three managed to find some stuff. I will say that is just unparalleled good. So Danny, we'll make this a thing. We're gonna check in with you every month. Maybe we'll get you like a recommendation every month.
Maybe I should just do once a month, because like when I read Aster of Pan for the Goodreads challenge last year, like that was another thing. I would have never picked that up on my own, but it was so much fun and I loved it. So yeah, I'll definitely keep you guys updated on my progress, because that way when I get to the end of 2023 and like I'm looking at some best stuff, like my list won't just be like Batman, Chip Zdarsky stuff, X-Men stuff.
I mean, but there's nothing wrong with that. You know, there was a lot of good Batman books this year. Chip Zdarsky was knocking it out of the park last year. So, like, I totally get that.
Cool.
Well, I was speaking of that, though, I was looking at my like yearly stats that I do, right? Like if you follow me on Twitter, I am taking like a bit of a Twitter break, but I did post a tweet that contained all of my 2022 stats of everything that I read, single issues, manga chapters, original graphic novels, and everything. And I read significantly less than I did in the previous 2 years. And I wonder if there was something like inside of a panini that had, to do with it or whatever. But stupid joke, but still I read less, but I did feel like I read a lot regardless, right? But I started a bunch of series, right? Like I started Dorohedoro,
Nice.
And I didn't like take the One Piece approach to it where I was like hammering myself to read 30 to 40 to 50 chapters every week, right? Like, God bless Kev in the chat right now, who I know is reading through One Piece. I'm very excited for him to get completely caught up. But like I started Dorohedoro, I started Blade of the Immortal, I started Akira, I started Usagi Yojimbo, right? And I kind of read those volumes very slowly. I mean, you're hearing these names, they're all banger comics, right? Like these are some of the best like manga that's ever been created. As far as I'm concerned, Dorohedoro, kind of a newer one. I mean, that's very hit or miss unless you're into extreme violence and blood and guts and gore and big, huge, beefy women that will kick the shit out of you. Like, but still amazing books, but they're all very long. And I think my goal this year is just to finish these books, like get through all of Blade of the Immortal, which like isn't a book you get through. It's a book that like travels through your body as if like some entity from an extra planar dimension has like completely possessed you. Dorohedoro is an experience in itself that really can't be taken in large bites as far as I'm concerned, just because it's a lot for a book. Akira, I have to like digest each volume. Like I have to like sit and think for a day after I finish a volume, because one, they're like 450 pages each, but also just like it's a lot to take in. And if you've seen the movie, you've only seen like a third of the actual story, which I think is really interesting. Usagi Yojimbo is my refresher comic. Like when I'm feeling like I don't want to read comics anymore, pick up a volume of Usagi Yojimbo, and I'm like, this is what comics are about. So like I just need to get through them, and I'm very excited to finish them. I don't know if I'm gonna read past volume 7 of Usagi Yojimbo, because I know there's like Dark Horse stuff that was published that's considered like volume 2, but I'm at least gonna finish the first 7 volumes, which came out through Fantagraphics. So I'm very excited about that. But yeah, I just want to finish some of these long reads so that I can finally jump into some of the rereads that I want to do this year, as well as some big reads that I've got. So I don't want to keep talking anymore, but I don't know. Any thoughts? Anything that you folks are looking to finish this year? I know, Danny, you said you finished things, but like, yeah, is there anything else on your list?
Well, I did want to say that Usagi Yojimbo to me feels like the perfect marriage between like manga and Western comics. So it's such a like, I could give it to either one. So yeah, I'm glad you're getting through all that stuff. I read some of it in the past, and I mean, Sakai's a legend. So really glad to hear
Dude.
you're on that.
Yeah, I love that series. I finished the first volume and I was like, oh, I must read everything now. I must read all of it. I must physically own it. I must give this to every like young adult reader that I know.
Mhm.
You know, I gave this to my 12-year-old nephew and he's obsessed with Demon Slayer right now. And I'm like, bud,
Ooh.
you are going to be pleased. But Paloma, are there any like big reads that you maybe want to finish or anything that you're trying to start this year?
Yeah, I started rereading Naruto, and I'd like to. I've never actually finished it, despite me being like a Naruto girly. Like that was my thing as like a youth. After I got, you know, after it like existed, and I was reading like the Weekly Shonen
Uh-huh.
Jump magazine.
Sure.
So I'd like to finish that. I know, like once it gets to Shippuden, so if you see the novel, the manga in real life, once like the covers go from like white to black, I know it changes, but I have to know how it actually like I know how it ends, but I need to know how we get there.
Right.
I need the
Right.
emotional bits. I need to see if it's as good as I think it is, but also I love seeing like Masashi Kishimoto's art and like seeing it evolve from like Naruto, and you can like volume 1 you can see how heavily influenced he was by Otomo. I forgot the Akira creator's name, but he has major influence. Like I'm like, oh, this is like reading Akira or like watching, like seeing the Akira film because I've
Mm-hmm.
not tackled that series. And then I want to try Vagabond by Takahiko Inoue, the creator
Yeah.
of Slam Dunk, but this is like a martial arts swordsman series question mark that I see a ton of people recommend when they're looking for
Mm-hmm.
like manga recommendations that don't necessarily have an anime or just like a classic. And when we get it in the shop, I work at a comic book store for people who don't know. It flies off the shelves, just like volume 1 and 2, like instantly. And these are like the Viz Big editions, so they're probably at
Yeah.
least $22, if not more.
Yeah, they're big. And they've got the cool, like, lined up. Like, I just posted a
Yes.
picture of it in the Discord, but they've got, like, the single image. If you line up all the spines together, it's, like, all of the
Ooh.
characters, which looks... I always see that in shops, and I'm always like, huh, cool, manga. And then I move on to look at My Hero Academia again and again and again, you know?
The reason
But
the reason that stops me from reading Vagabond is that it's not available digitally. And
Oh.
I love reading, like, manga. To me on my iPad is the way to do it. Like, I
mhm,
love buying the Takabons just to have them,
Mm-hmm.
because of stuff like Mike just said, like the spines lining up and just like they look really cool. But it's just so much easier for me to just pop out my phone or my iPad and just read it there. And unfortunately, you can't do that with Vagabond. Well, you can't legally do that with
can't
Vagabond.
Right.
legally do
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but these spines are pretty cool. I might hunt those down
Yeah,
at the
that's
shop.
Dude,
tempting.
I know, right? That's really cool. Thank you for reminding me of that because that is the series. It's like Blade of the Immortal is one that's up there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Vagabond is another one that a lot of people recommend as well. So like maybe we'll see. Maybe at the end of this year I'll start Vagabond and I'll carry it over into
Yes.
2024 or something. Yeah, but it's like Naoki Urasawa's work, right? Like
Yes.
wonderful creator, but his books are only available physically, and I think that's changing this year. I think some of his stuff is going to become digitally, but like dude's got some of the best manga that's
Mhm.
ever been made, right? Like
Mhm.
Monster, Pluto, 20th Century Boys, right? Like these are top tier comics right here, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
But yeah, I think I guess I've got a couple other big reads that I want to get through this year, right? Like I think I'm gonna try to do Naruto as well. I
Yeah.
think like I'm gonna hit the big three. I'm gonna say that I've gotten Bleach under my belt, and I've gotten One Piece now, and I guess Naruto's the other big one,
Mhm.
and Hunter x Hunter is also on the Shonen Jump
Yes.
app. So I might like, do I tag team? Do I do like 10 chapters of each and just like get caught up? Who knows? But Naruto is the big one, and I do want to experience that. I've heard some things that like once it becomes the second portion, it's not as good or something. I don't care. Like I read all of One Piece, and that book, if you want to talk about peaks and valleys, like let's be honest here. So I'm excited. I'm probably gonna try that. I did buy all of the chapter volumes of Spy Family because they were like 50% off, and I was like, you know
Dang.
what, screw this. So I've got like 1 through 8 sitting on my shelf. Want to read
That's
that.
fun.
Sakamoto Days is the other book. It's not
Yes.
very long, but everybody makes that reaction, Paloma. They just go yes whenever I mention it. And Nick has told me, even Nick is on board for this series, so like it's got to be good, I guess. And then I want to finally read all of Hellboy, like the Hellboy omnibuses that are available. Not all of BPRD, not all of the side stories, just like the core Hellboy series, and then get berated by Nick incessantly until I read the rest of it. So yeah, he's already responding in the chat. He's very upset with me. But yeah, I do want to read. I've got a lot of ambitious projects, but I think I'm going to try to buy less single issues this year, unless they are like certainly going to be good. I'm probably going to be trying less single issues and trying to read more of my back issues. So we'll see. But yeah, I've got some big reads. They're pretty ambitious. I think the biggest one, obviously, Naruto. The rest of them probably doable. Like as the saying goes, once you read One Piece, anything is possible. So like, I'm just gonna roll with that this year. That's kind of my mantra.
Well, in that vein, my I put on the notes that I'm gonna finally get redacted because I wanted to surprise everyone live because I'm a showman.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm finally gonna read One Piece.
Oh my god.
Yo, some
And here the reason why I'm doing it is the weirdest one yet. As you know, I've really gotten into the TCG.
Wow.
I don't understand this. How you get into the trading card game without having any.
That's exactly it. Like the TCG is so cool. Like I have my Luffy card right here with me as we record.
Nice.
And I've actually read the first volume already, Romance Dawn, which is the name of the set for the cards. So now everything in my head is clicking together. So now I'm not gonna only read One Piece like Kev. That's not gonna be my total focus.
Sure.
But I'm gonna start reading it. And I just, after getting through the first volume, it is so good. It's so much fun. Like, I think the anime adaptation did a disservice by skipping some stuff in the first episode. By the way they did it, because they don't start at the beginning of the manga. I think they might go into that a little bit later.
They do rely on flashbacks a lot on that anime.
Yeah, so I think this is the way, because I don't think I'll ever watch the anime like all the way through. But this way I can read the manga and then go watch the cool fights in the anime and then just continue with the manga. I think some people call this like the quick method of like getting through the anime.
Sure.
So yeah, I am so excited. The first volume was amazing. I wanted to read it before the episode, and I finished it yesterday. And it's just the meeting of these characters that I've known for a long time because they're just in the zeitgeist. And then as I open packs, like I see their names, and now I understand why like some cards are worth a lot of money because the characters are so cool. So yeah, I'm very excited. So that's the big thing. I'll keep you guys updated on the manga thread on the Discord. So make sure to join the Discord so we can talk about One Piece, and then I can finally go back and click all those censor bars that you guys all.
We did. A couple of us did do a big One Piece reread a while back. Yeah. It's been fun. I think me and Jeff and maybe one other person. I think we've been on and off.
It was a lot of FOMO being on that thread and not being able to like get into it. So.
Well, speaking of the trading card game, if you find a like Sniper King card, you let me know and I will find it on eBay or something. That's the only character I truly care about, is that moment in time when Usopp was Sniper King. Spoilers, not spoilers. It's the most obvious thing in the entire world in the manga.
I'll forget by the time I get there. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah. Well, I guess to like wrap up here, I did have one last piece, but do either of you have anything else you wanted to bring up before we, I guess, wrap up today's episode?
I have one other thing, and this is more of a self-control thing.
Sure.
And this may be a big controversial thing. I'm gonna stop buying so many Star Wars books. I think I'm gonna tackle the Star Wars problem head on.
What will the Star Wars franchise do without you?
Yeah, right. I'm gonna stick. My goal is to stick to the main three books: Star Wars, Dr. Aphra, and Darth Vader. I just, for some reason, the High Republic is not clicking with me. Like, I've tried every series. I bought the book. I love Charles Soule. Like, I love his writing, but there's just no connection with me and those characters. But then you put out something like Crimson Reign, and I'm like a sucker for it. So, but I think I'm just gonna keep buying those series. Everything else I read on the Marvel app or like on trade or whatever. But yeah, that's it. Like, I'm weaning off of Star Wars. Especially because the TV stuff is so good. Like, I don't need to just read the comics.
Just give me more Andor. Yeah. That's all that I want in my whole life. Paloma, what about you? What are any last thoughts here?
I also, in the self-control vein, I'm like, gotta maybe put a pause on some single issue stuff.
Oh,
I know. I I don't even have that many short boxes technically at my apartment. My long
Sure.
boxes are at my parents' house, but I'm just like, where's the space? I just have this box. Even if I got a cool like X-Men short box, I'm like, it's just a box that I put my books in.
Right.
So yeah, gotta reflect on that.
So you're cutting back just on single issues, or are you cutting back anywhere else, or just on that?
Maybe just singles. Maybe be more
Okay.
picky with what manga I purchase. Just because I have the Shonen Jump app, even though I don't even buy that much Shonen, but space.
Right. Totally get that. Yeah, I'm also in the same vein of a little bit of self-control. I think this year I'm actually going to get rid of some of my comics. I know. I have this problem where sometimes I will just buy things and not realize that I already own them. And then I just have like 2 copies of Chainsaw Man Volume 6 or like 2 copies of multiple volumes of various things. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of my graphic novels, my collections, all this stuff that I have, get all the duplicates, get all the things that I'm kind of just like, I don't need to own this anymore. And then I'm going to put them into like an Excel spreadsheet or something. And, I'm probably like, I'm even up for just like putting them on Discord and saying like, who wants these? Pay for shipping and it's yours. So if you want to join the Discord and you want to get some potentially cheap comics, let me know. And yeah, so I'm going to try to go through all of my single issues as well. Try to grab like batches of books that I don't want. I did this a while ago before I moved to New York, but that was almost a decade ago. So like, I think it's time for me to cull some of the books that I have and see what I don't want to keep anymore. But the last thing I want to say, I think what I'm going to try to do this year is I want to read more comics from folks who are listening to the show, right? Like we talk about a lot of books, and I do know that a lot of people tell us that, they appreciate the books that we recommend to them, but I'm also trying to go the other way, right? Like we tap into a lot of things, and Danny, you said like, you read a lot of big two, and then you hear about graphic novels, you're like, whoa, cool. A lot of the times, a lot of our listeners have sent me stuff that like has destroyed me emotionally, and then I have to like lie down afterwards, and it's great, and I love that. And it's a book that I never ever would have found. So I think just like instead of haphazardly just like getting books from people, I want to kind of make it a little bit more formal in that I want to ask people this year. I'm taking open submissions for comics that I should read. So you can email me like a single issue or a volume or a graphic novel you think I should try, why you like it, why I should read it. And then I will take it and I'll read it. Now, I can't guarantee I'm going to read everything, but I really want people to send it over so that I can take it and I can make it a thing as part of the show rather than me just randomly reading things. So send an email to ircbpodcast@gmail.com. I'm going to take recs all year. If I get no recs, that's fine. If I get a bunch of recommendations, that's even better. I'll try to get through as many of them as I can, but I do want to try to just take more recommendations from people on top of finding my own stuff. But like, there's something really, really satisfying about like getting a book from someone and really liking it. And there's something terribly annoying about getting a book that you hate. So expect full honest reviews here, but like, I do really want to try to do that because I think that I really want to understand why people like the books that they like. Not just saying, hey, Mike, you should read this, but more like giving me a little bit more of an explanation is probably going to turn me into liking it more or trying to see it in a different way than I probably would. So send me an email, ircbpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll give you a shout out on the show. We'll make a whole spiel out of it. But yeah, it's something that I'm trying for this year. I'm really excited to do it. So. And
I'll make sure that Mike shares that list with the rest of us because that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and if the rest of the folks on the show want to do it too, they're more than welcome to. But I'm going to make a guarantee that I'm going to make an effort. If I get these emails, it's going to happen. So yeah, I guess to wrap things up, Paloma, Danny, thank you for being with me on this episode today. It's really exciting to see what you're both reading this year. Danny, I can't believe how dramatic you are with your One Piece review.
I'm ready. I'm going to go get my straw hat after this.
I expect full Luffy cosplay by the end of this year. But anyways, next week's episode is going to be me and Nick and Kate. We're going to be talking about our Goodreads book of the month for January as picked by our Goodreads challenge finishers from last year. We're going to be reading Nuclear Winter Volume 1. So I'm really excited to jump into that with Kate and Nick. As always, you can check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Discord, Goodreads, TikTok, all the places on the internet. All those links are in the show notes, so make sure you check us out there. Support us on Patreon for access to stuff like the Best of 2022 that I'm going to be doing later this year, as well as IRCB Movie Club and so many more other Patreon exclusive series. Infinity Shred is the best band in the universe. They do all of our music. Zander flies across the barriers of time and space, seeking a bright new dawn. I want to say thank you to Paloma and Danny, and thank you to everyone in the Discord for hanging out with us. If you made it this far in the show, you are the true fan of I Read Comic Books, so thank you. And until next time, comics are good, and so are you.